Daniel Harper had been raising his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, alone ever since his wife passed away 3 years earlier. Life had not been easy, but he never allowed his struggles to become excuses. Every morning before sunrise, he prepared Lily's breakfast, packed her school lunch, and dropped her off before heading to his job as a maintenance technician at a large manufacturing company in Chicago. The job didn't pay much, but it covered the bills and kept a roof over their heads. Daniel worked hard, often taking extra shifts whenever they were available. His co-workers respected him because he never complained, even when life seemed unfair. One rainy Thursday afternoon, Daniel was driving a company van to deliver equipment to another facility across town. Traffic was moving slowly because of the weather. As he waited at a red light, he noticed a woman standing on the sidewalk, clutching her stomach. She looked frightened and was waving desperately at passing cars. Most drivers ignored her. Daniel hesitated for only a second before pulling over. He stepped out of the van and approached carefully. "Are you okay?" he asked. The woman was pale and breathing heavily. "I'm pregnant," she said between breaths. "Something's wrong. I think I'm in labor, but my phone died and I can't get a taxi." Daniel looked around. The street was nearly empty. "Have you called an ambulance?" "I tried, but nobody answered before my phone shut off." Daniel knew he was already behind schedule. Company policy strictly prohibited using vehicles for personal matters. His manager had reminded employees about that rule only a week earlier. Still, when he looked at the terrified woman, he thought about what he would want someone to do if Lily ever needed help. "Come on," he said gently. "I'll take you." Relief filled the woman's eyes. Daniel helped her into the van and drove toward the nearest hospital. Throughout the journey, he tried to keep her calm, talking about ordinary things and assuring her they would arrive soon. When they finally reached the emergency entrance, nurses rushed out with a wheelchair and took her inside. Before disappearing through the doors, the woman grabbed Daniel's hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea how much this means to me." Daniel smiled, wished her luck, and hurried back to work. He had no idea that the decision he had just made would change his life forever. Nor did he know that the woman he had helped was one of the most powerful business leaders in the city. The next morning, Daniel arrived at work expecting an ordinary day. He dropped Lily off at school, grabbed a coffee from a small corner shop, and headed to the manufacturing plant. The events of the previous afternoon were already fading from his mind. As far as he was concerned, he had simply helped someone who needed assistance. About an hour into his shift, his supervisor asked him to report to the manager's office. Daniel immediately sensed something was wrong. Inside the office sat his supervisor and the operations manager, both wearing serious expressions. A printed report lay on the desk between them. "Daniel, do you know why you're here?" the manager asked. Daniel shook his head. The manager slid the paper across the desk. "We received a GPS report from the company vehicle you were driving yesterday." Daniel's stomach tightened. The report showed every stop he had made, including the unexpected trip to the hospital. "You used company property for personal reasons," the manager continued. "That's a direct violation of company policy." Daniel tried to explain. "It wasn't personal. A pregnant woman was in distress. She needed medical help immediately. I didn't know what else to do." The room remained silent. His supervisor looked sympathetic, but the manager's expression didn't change. "There are procedures for situations like that," he said. "You should have contacted emergency services." "Her phone was dead. She was scared. I couldn't just leave her there." "We understand your intentions," the manager replied, "but policies exist for a reason." Daniel knew where the conversation was heading before the words were spoken. By lunchtime, his employment had been terminated. Walking out of the building with a cardboard box containing his belongings felt unreal. He had worked there for nearly 6 years. Now it was over. The drive home was even harder. Daniel wasn't worried about himself as much as he was about Lily. Rent was due in 2 weeks. School expenses were piling up. Their savings account was already small. That evening, Lily noticed something was bothering him. "Did you have a bad day, Dad?" she asked while doing homework at the kitchen table. Daniel forced a smile. "A little." She put down her pencil and hugged him. "It's okay, bad days don't last forever." Her words made him smile, but after she went to bed, Daniel sat alone in the quiet apartment staring at unpaid bills. For the first time in years, he wasn't sure what would happen next. What he didn't know was that the woman he had helped had been asking hospital staff for the name of the man who had brought her there. And once she found it, she became determined to find him. 3 days after losing his job, Daniel's routine had completely changed. Instead of leaving for work after dropping Lily at school, he spent his mornings searching for job openings. He updated his resume, sent applications, and made phone calls, but the responses were discouraging. Some companies weren't hiring, others promised to call back but never did. The uncertainty weighed heavily on him. One afternoon, while sitting at the kitchen table reviewing expenses, he heard a knock at the apartment door. Daniel wasn't expecting anyone. When he opened it, he found a well-dressed woman standing in the hallway. Beside her was another woman carrying a folder. For a moment, Daniel didn't recognize her. Then he noticed her smile. It was the pregnant woman from the roadside. She looked much healthier now. "Mr. Harper?" she asked. Daniel nodded in surprise. "Yes. My name is Victoria Reynolds. We met a few days ago." Daniel stepped aside and invited them in. The small apartment suddenly felt even smaller as everyone sat around the kitchen table. "I've been trying to find you," Victoria said. "You didn't have to do that," Daniel replied. "I was just glad you made it to the hospital safely." Victoria exchanged a glance with the woman beside her. "Actually, I did have to find you." Daniel looked confused. She took a deep breath. "The day you helped me, I wasn't just on my way to the hospital. I was also supposed to attend a major board meeting." Daniel listened politely, unsure where the conversation was going. "I am the founder and CEO of Reynolds Manufacturing." The name immediately sounded familiar. It was one of the largest manufacturing companies in the region. For several seconds, Daniel simply stared at her. Victoria continued. "The doctors told me that getting medical attention quickly prevented serious complications for both me and my baby." A trace of emotion appeared in her voice. "You didn't know who I was. You didn't expect anything in return. You just saw someone in trouble and decided to help." Daniel looked down at the table. "I think most people would have done the same." Victoria gently shook her head. "They didn't." The room fell silent. Then her expression changed. "While looking for you, I also learned something else." Daniel's heart sank. She already knew. She knew he had lost his job because of the decision he had made that day. And judging by the look on her face, she wasn't happy about it at all. Victoria didn't wait long before telling Daniel what she had learned. "I spoke to several people at your former company," she said. "They confirmed that you were fired because you used a company vehicle to take me to the hospital." Daniel let out a quiet sigh. "It is what it is." "No," Victoria replied firmly. "It isn't." For the first time since she had arrived, there was frustration in her voice. "You helped a stranger during a medical emergency. That's not something people should be punished for." Daniel appreciated her concern, but he had already spent days accepting the reality of his situation. "The decision has been made," he said. "Right now, I just need to find another job." Victoria opened the folder her assistant had brought. "I think I can help with that." She slid a document across the table. Daniel looked down and saw the logo of Reynolds Manufacturing. His eyes widened. "We're opening a new operations division next month," Victoria explained. "After speaking with hospital staff and learning more about you, I asked my team to review your work history." Daniel stared at the papers in disbelief. "You did all that?" Victoria smiled. "I wanted to know who the man was who stopped his day to help someone he didn't know." According to the offer, the position paid significantly more than his previous job. It also included health insurance, retirement benefits, and a more predictable schedule. Daniel read the numbers twice because he thought he had misunderstood them. "This can't be real." "It is," Victoria said. For a moment, he couldn't speak. The past few days had been filled with anxiety, sleepless nights, and fears about how he would support Lily. Now, everything seemed to be changing at once. "You don't owe me this," he finally said. Victoria's expression softened. "Maybe not, but companies can teach skills. Character is harder to find." At that moment, Lily walked into the kitchen after returning from a friend's apartment upstairs. She stopped when she saw the visitors. Victoria smiled at her. "You must be Lily." Lily nodded shyly. Victoria turned back to Daniel. The day you helped me, you showed my future child something important, even before they were born." Daniel looked confused. "What do you mean?" "That kindness matters, even when it's inconvenient, even when nobody is watching." A few weeks later, Daniel started his new position at Reynolds Manufacturing. Months afterward, Victoria gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Life was still busy and parenting was still challenging, but Daniel never forgot the lesson that difficult week had taught him. Sometimes doing the right thing comes with a cost, but sometimes the people you help remember far longer than you expect. And sometimes a single act of compassion can quietly open a door that changes everything.